Need a meeting room display? Well, just go online and buy the largest TV you can find, right? Wrong. Size matters, usage matters, warranties matter. So let's discuss. So what is a display screen used for in a meeting room environment? Well, you see presentations, so PowerPoint and Excel being discussed within a meeting room. You've got video calls, so Zoom and Teams calls, for example, and then increasingly digital signage content. So when not actively used for presentation or video calls, marketing messages or information can be presented onto the screen as well. So why not buy a television? Well, televisions are domestic products and they're designed to be used around 4 hours every day. They're primarily there to watch terrestrial or streamed television and not video conferencing or presentations. So when you turn these systems on, you're generally presented with a very domestic-centric experience. And I think most importantly as well, these screens aren't warranted in commercial settings. So if they fail, generally speaking, that's a completely new screen. They're not going to get repaired by the manufacturer. So what do we as AV professionals install in meeting rooms? Well, we install large format displays. So these look very much like televisions, but they don't have that domestic experience and they're built somewhat more robustly so that they can work successfully in a commercial environment. They also generally have a longer warranty, around 3 years typically, and it features advanced replacement of either parts or a screen in the event of a failure, so that there's less downtime if there is a problem. The systems themselves are designed for extended use. So rather than the 4 hours of a domestic-centric television, large format displays are typically either 16 hours a day or 24 hours a day, both 7 days a week. So they're much more robust to be able to cope with that extended hours. Connectivity and features are also very commercially centric. So you generally find that you've got more connections to be able to connect other systems to the screens, and there's better quality audio inputs and outputs. Often there's built-in signage players, and the systems themselves will be able to support consumer electronics control commands or other types of control systems, being able to control how those systems are interfacing with the rest of the AV setup. Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I'm the Meeting Room Doctor. Let's open surgery. So, we need a commercial display. How big should it be? Well, size does matter. Too small and people won't see the contents at the back of the room. Too big, it will be overpowering, which will be tiring for the users. Both of these issues will make it easy for people to disengage from the meeting, which will reduce productivity. So there is an optimal size, and the AV industry uses something called the DISCAS formula to define that. And this takes the room, the audience, and usage parameters and applies a formula. And this gives us an optimal size so that all users can see clearly and most optimally. DISCAS also tells us farthest and closest viewing distances so that the room can be set out accordingly. We've established the screen size. What other considerations are there? Well, we've got resolution, and this is essentially the amount of pixels available on the screen's estate to be able to display the content it's given. Most screens that you buy today are probably 4K, but most applications don't even need that level of pixels to display fine. Most are designed for a 1080p high definition environment. So whatever you buy off the shelf now will work fine with most of applications that you see. Aspect ratio is another aspect to consider. Most screens are what's called 16:9 widescreen displays, and this is the vast majority of the screens you'll see in operation today. But we are increasingly seeing video conferencing applications using ultra widescreen displays, which are termed 21:9. Usage wise, this is the amount of hours you anticipate the screen being on in a day. And in most meeting rooms, a 16-hour a day, 7-day a week rating is more than sufficient. In digital signage applications, you may look to push that to a 24/7 display, especially if the screen is being left on overnight. The next we have whether the screen is to be mounted landscape or portrait. Landscape screens are standard and is typically what you'd see in a meeting room environment. The only times you typically see portrait screens would be digital signage or desktop applications. If you are considering a portrait application, not all screens are designed to be working in a portrait environment, primarily because of the cooling implications that would have. So make sure if you are selecting a screen for a portrait application, you procure one that's designed for that. Brightness is very important. Consumer TV is actually the least bright of all of the TVs on the market. Budget commercial large format displays tend to have a brightness of around about 350 to 400 candela per meter square. This is fine for most commercial applications. You may look to push beyond that and procure a mid-range or above commercial large format display if you've got a lot of glass or direct sunlight, and these can be circa 500 candela per meter square. There are things like dedicated high brightness screens for external or externally facing applications, but these are really in the realms of digital signage applications and not typically seen in meeting rooms. Most screens will also have anti-glare coatings to help combat bright lights, either from internal lighting or from the screens. Screen format wise, well, you typically see single screens, dual screens or ultra wide screens. So let's go into these a little bit more detail. So the single screen option is the cheapest, most frequently installed, and saves the most space of all of the screen options. And typically these are 16:9 aspect ratio screens and will be plugged into and work perfectly fine with presentation and video conferencing applications. You can then look at dual screen applications, and these are typically used in larger video conferencing spaces, and they offer more viewing options and better inclusivity. So what do I mean by that? Well, with two screens side by side, what you have the option to be able to do is show a picture of who you're talking to, and then side by side the content that you're sharing into that meeting. So you can see both the reactions of the people at the far end and also the content at the same time. It makes it a more productive and easy to use environment when you're doing lots of screen sharing to remote participants. But it is a lot wider and you need to have the space to be able to install those. Newer ultra wide screens are becoming more popular, especially within Microsoft Teams environments where there are dedicated templates for 21:9 aspect ratio screens. And these tend to be a little bit more immersive. So because you've got that extra width, then you're getting more information on those screens. Another thing that we often see is interactivity. So adding a touch screen capability to the display gives a whole new level of interactivity. So we see digital whiteboarding, so the ability to annotate on the screen and share that into a meeting that you're having online or just use internally. With some commercial displays, you can benefit from a centralized admin portal, and this allows the manufacturer to build in asset tagging, monitor device status, including usage statistics and managing support alerts. Allows IT teams to be able to update software and firmware and remotely adjust settings, and also use diagnostic tools to be able to use those screens and use them and optimize those screens in your environment. It's also possible to be remotely able to schedule power saving settings. So that's the ability to turn the screen off out of hours. So these features are great for corporates looking to simplify their technology estate and also ensure that they're sort of managing a green mandate as well. Digital signage facilities allow users to be able to display content onto their display. This might be static images or video content, and it's often set up using an online portal. So it's connected to the internet and allows you to be able to schedule based upon time of day or particular campaign what you see on the screen. There's also integrations with media outlets, travel and weather systems if that's what you need. And also you can directly link web and software streaming services. So in a digital signage environment, content is either streamed or downloaded to a local player. And it's typically used to display menus, corporate events, perhaps wayfinding, directories, and other aspects of advertising. The screens typically play over 24/7s, and this would obviously impact upon your choice of display. So what other display formats are we seeing in meeting rooms these days? Projectors, less so. We used to deploy an awful lot of projectors with drop-down screens in boardroom settings up until the sort of mid-2010s. But as the price of large format displays have become cheaper for the larger sizes, the convenience of a large format display and the connectivity and interactivity has become the choice, the default choice in meeting rooms. Also, there are challenges with using projectors in meeting rooms because they have to fight against the ambient light and generally need blackout blinds to work at their absolute best. So we typically see LED video walls in large scale rooms where the screen size needs to be above 100 inches. These screens can be flexibly deployed up to almost any size and are very, very bright, impactful, and expensive. So we don't tend to see these at the lower end or in smaller conference rooms, but they are the mainstay of impactful lobbies and social spaces, all hands and town hall spaces. So what do we recommend? Well, it really depends on the room and the audience and what flexibility you need. There's no kind of one size fits all for displays. So in small huddle rooms, these can be quite basic. A single screen, correctly sized, will be absolutely fine. Small to medium sized rooms, well, still a single screen is fine, but you may want to consider a 21:9 ultra wide option, as this will allow participants to be able to see more of the content that they're projecting in a video call. Again, the most important thing here is that it is sized correctly. That's the most important thing. So in large spaces, single, dual and ultra wide screens will work well, and the choice will depend on how you're primarily going to use the space. In very, very large spaces like town hall or presentation areas, we will still see the use of projectors and, when the budget allows, LED walls. Again, the most important thing with screens is to make sure that the sizing is correct. So do your DISCAS calculations and make sure that everyone's going to be able to see comfortably. And then look at that environment as well and make sure that the screen is going to be bright enough to combat the ambient light from either internally or externally. There are many things to consider when looking at your next meeting room upgrade. At Meeting Room Doctor, we know this and we want to help. Whilst our videos are helpful, sometimes you just want professional guidance dedicated to your project. Well, I'm pleased to introduce Meeting Room Doctor Surgery and Meeting Room Doctor on your team. Meeting Room Doctor Surgery provides professional AV consultancy for a fixed fee per room. This package includes a professional assessment of your display screen sizes using industry formulas and matched to the plans of your room. We conduct a comprehensive reverberance assessment to ensure the room doesn't echo and performs at its best. And if needed, we can recommend acoustic treatments too. We provide AV elevation templates, and these guide construction teams on the exact placement of hardware, services and cable routes, vital to ensure the correct performance and the highest quality look for your meeting room. We make hardware recommendations. This includes all elements: display screens, cameras, microphones, speakers, conferencing hardware, the whole solution. We can also recommend Meeting Room Doctor approved install contractors, should you not have one already. Lastly, our comprehensive companion guide gives a deep dive into AV technologies and helps you understand the theory behind our recommendations. Meeting Room Doctor on your team is more hands-on, and it's designed for companies refurbishing or relocating over a longer period of time. The clue's in the name really. On your team means that we become part of your team for the duration of your project. In addition to surgery items, we want to immerse ourselves into your project. We want to fully understand your objectives, and we want to meet your team and become part of your technology vision. Let us help you define what success looks like in your meeting rooms. And then to understand the plans, the usage, the budget requirements, and to recommend ultimately the technical solution that will meet this. We can even introduce you to our Meeting Room Doctor approved installers, or we can work with your existing partners. During the build, we often join weekly project calls and act as a bridge between internal teams and construction and technology people. A simple conversation can quickly keep a project on track, ensuring success and avoid costly variations. Upon completion, we can verify the installation just to check that it meets those success criteria that we set out before. And we can also recommend ongoing support, training and the documentation requirements to make sure that your system works for the long term. Be sure to check out the link in the description for more information. If you found this video useful, check out our other Fundamentals series videos where we cover a wide variety of meeting room technologies and what AV professionals consider when they're looking at meeting spaces. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. Make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Let's all agree, every meeting room deserves to be doctor approved. But for now, I've got other patients waiting. Meeting room doctor out.